When Harold turned 72, he believed he had life figured out. He'd raised 3 children, retired from his job at the post office, paid off his mortgage, and even started a small vegetable garden behind his house. Life should have been peaceful. But as the years rolled on, he found himself trapped in a quiet kind of regret. One that didn't come from the big tragedies, but from small, foolish mistakes he hadn't realized he was making. He didn't know it then, but he was one of the 97%, the older adults who make the same simple errors that quietly destroy the quality of their later years. It began with what seemed like nothing at all. The first mistake was ignoring his health until it screamed for attention. Harold always told himself he felt fine. A twinge in the knee, a shortness of breath, those were just normal signs of aging. He hated hospitals, hated the smell of antiseptic, and hated the reminder that he wasn't invincible anymore. So he ignored his annual checkups. Until one morning, while walking to the corner store, he found himself gasping for air, clutching the lamppost. It turned out he had developed a heart condition that could have been managed years earlier if he'd only listened to his body. After that scare, Harold began to understand how arrogance hides behind the phrase, "I'm fine." He started eating better, walking every day, and taking his medications on time. He learned that health wasn't just about surviving. It was about being able to move, to breathe, to live with energy. The second mistake was cutting off friends and social connections. After retirement, Harold told himself he enjoyed solitude. At first, it felt peaceful, the quiet mornings, the freedom to do nothing. But slowly, the silence became heavy. Days blended together. Friends stopped calling because he never reached out first. Loneliness crept in like fog, blurring his sense of time and purpose. One day, he passed by a cafe and saw a group of men around his age laughing together over coffee. Something about that sound, laughter without bitterness, made his chest ache. The next week, he swallowed his pride and joined the local senior club. The first few meetings were awkward, but then came the friendships, the shared jokes, the feeling of belonging. Harold realized isolation wasn't peace, it was decay in disguise. Humans needed people, even when they pretended they didn't. The third mistake was mismanaging money and pretending he didn't need a plan. Harold had always been careful with money, but after retirement, his caution turned to denial. He spent freely at first, new gadgets, unnecessary gifts, and treats he said he deserved. When his savings began to shrink faster than expected, he grew anxious. Instead of facing it, he avoided checking his bank statements altogether. It wasn't until a bounced utility bill embarrassed him at the post office that he finally sat down with his finances. He met with a financial advisor who helped him budget properly, invest modestly, and plan for emergencies. For the first time in years, he slept soundly. He learned too late that independence wasn't just about having money, it was about managing it wisely enough to keep your freedom. The fourth mistake was refusing to adapt to change. Technology had evolved faster than Harold wanted to admit. Online banking, smartphones, video calls, all of it felt overwhelming. He often said, "I'm too old for that nonsense." But the world didn't wait for his comfort. He missed his granddaughter's birthday because the invitation was sent via a family group chat he never checked. He lost touch with friends who used email instead of letters. The realization hit him one day when his grandson said, "Grandpa, I wish you were online so I could talk to you more." That week, Harold bought a simple smartphone. His granddaughter taught him how to use it, patiently, step by step. Within months, he was video calling his children, paying bills easily, and even sharing photos of his tomatoes in the family chat. He realized adaptation wasn't surrendering to modern life, it was staying connected to it. The fifth and final mistake was giving up on learning and curiosity. After retirement, Harold thought learning was for the young. He'd stopped reading books, stopped trying new things, and lived inside the comfort of routine. But that comfort dulled his mind. Then one evening, while watching a documentary about astronomy, something inside him stirred. The stars, the vastness. It fascinated him. The next day, he went to the library and borrowed a book on space. One book became 10. Soon, he was teaching a small astronomy club at the senior center. His curiosity came roaring back, and with it, joy. Years later, when Harold sat on his porch watching the sunset, he thought about those mistakes, each one a lesson carved deep into his life. Ignoring health, isolating, Wasting money, resisting change, and abandoning curiosity. Those were the traps that had nearly stolen his later years. But once he faced them, life didn't feel like an ending anymore. He smiled to himself as the sky turned golden. "It's never too late," he whispered, "unless you decide it is." And from that day on, Harold made sure every sunrise still had something worth waking up for.